parental leave on today. The Chicago Teachers Union worked collaboratively with the CPS on rolling out a parallel of policies for the district workers, only to have the mayor's labor relation team backpedal after mid-December. The measure was expected to go before the mayor's hand-picked Board of Education on January the 25th meeting. The move is now on hold indefinitely. And we're here to speak out against that. And we have some members here from our CPS staff. We have our AFT president here. And we're going to call first one of our members and teacher, and she's a parent, Cassandra. Let's receive her at this time. There she is.
Good evening. My name is Cassandra Chichopoulos, spelled Kassandra. Last name Tsipoulos. I'm a 17-year veteran for Chicago Public Schools at Prosser Career Academy. I teach history and psychology. I've been on the local school council. I've been a coach. I'm the union delegate here at Prosser, and I'm also an executive board member. And recently, I became a parent for the first time. I've had to deal with a lot of CPS shenanigans in my career, but becoming a new mother in July and navigating the abysmal parental leave policy was a new low for CPS. I had to have an emergency C-section in order to deliver my daughter. When I found out they had to open me up, I was scared and emotional. But one of my other thoughts was, oh wait, I'd get 8 weeks of short-term disability instead of 6. This is a very disturbing and messed up thought that I had right before I gave birth to my daughter. In the wealthiest nation in the world, in one of the wealthiest cities in the world, to not have decent parental leave policy where a woman would look on the bright side of a C-section is medieval. In order to spend more time with my newborn baby, which research shows is good for the mother and for the baby, I used up almost all of my banked sick days. Now I'm scared that if I get sick, I won't have sick days to take care of my baby. I'm also at an economic disadvantage because many of my male colleagues have hundreds of bank sick days that they can cash out when they retire or retire early, something that I won't have. In a profession dominated by women, this is poor policy and discriminatory. If you want to attract more people to the teaching profession, you can't shortchange people on parental leave. Many of my friends and family members work in the private sector and are now getting 4 to 6 months of paid parental leave. So you can imagine that when I heard that the mayor was going to offer 12 weeks of parental leave, my heart burst with joy, only to be crushed later when the mayor rescinded her promise to offer public sector employees like myself the 12 weeks of parental leave. We were so close to getting this basic right that most other countries offer. There was even a timeline that the Board of Education was going to vote on it in January. If I choose to have a second child, I have to be extremely strategic about when I have it so that I can have as many days as possible with my baby and try to bank as many days as I can in the next few years. I cannot believe that in 2023, my employer, the mayor, controls where I live and when I can have a baby. The Handmaid's Tale isn't far off. When people wonder why CTU gets involved in the political realm, it's because politicians like the mayor have an outsized role in our personal and professional lives. And so we need political champions. It's why the Chicago Teachers Union endorsed people like Brandon Johnson and Lori Torres, people who are friendly to families and to teachers. Mayor Lightfoot, you messed with our jobs and our students, and we went on strike for 11 days. Now you're messing with our babies, and there's nothing that this mama bear won't do to protect her child. So I urge the mayor, the members of the city council, and the hand-picked Board of Education to negotiate the details of the 12-week parental leave policy with CTU as soon as possible. Thank you.
Next, we will have another teacher and parent, Erin Jimenez.
My name is Erin Jimenez. That's E-R-I-N. Last name Jimenez, Jimenez. E-N-E-Z. I've had 3 children during my 17-year tenure with CPS, with my most recent being born last April. This is Lorelei and her first political action. Very proud of her. I am a digital media teacher here at Prosser. My first 2 boys were born early and had NICU stays of 6 weeks, which would be considered the entire of my leave under the current CPS parental leave benefit. All of my pregnancies have been high risk and needed bed rest before the baby was born, and consequently, I have used almost all of my saved sick days. It has been an emotional and financial burden to worry about having enough sick days banked for each of my pregnancies to extend my parental leaves. My oldest child has ongoing medical issues and requires me to use sick days for his doctor's appointments, and I've struggled to save days for those, let alone if I myself might actually get sick one day. I talk with my male coworkers, and they have 100+ sick days at the same time. And I, after working 17 years, have 3 saved. It's completely unfair. My second child, I went back after 6 weeks because of lack of sick days, and I was not ready physically or emotionally. For this last baby, I was on bed rest for a month to safely deliver my daughter at full term. I was concerned the entire time I would not have enough sick days left. I printed out a calendar and marked days and constantly called the benefit leave office. It is extremely unfair that we are city workers with the requirements of living in the city, a city I love, and paying city taxes, but we are not being given the same parental leave as other city workers. It is unfair that we are caused financial and professional disadvantage that our male colleagues are not. Parents don't choose when their children are born, but often in CPS, women try to schedule their pregnancies, so they deliver towards the end of the school year to make sure they can have the extra time during the summer. And that shouldn't have to be the case. The additional stress our parental leave policy adds to our emotional and physical well-being during a tough time already is inhumane.
Thank you.
That's right, Erin. Nice job.
Now we will have one of our male speakers. He's a teacher and parent, Jose Eduardo.
Hi, Jose. Good evening. My name is Jose Eduardo Jimenez. First name Jose, last name Jimenez. Prior to my daughter being born last April, I never thought of a more stressful time than planning out how my wife and I would schedule our parental leaves within CPS. We went back and forth trying to piece together our leaves to make it through the school year. My wife was admitted into the hospital before her due date. During that time, I struggled knowing that I couldn't take off any days from work to tend to the house or our other kids at home. When our baby was born, I only took 1 day off to be with my baby and my wife. Because I was saving my days for my leave, I don't believe any parent should go through this in any job. At the moment, one of our colleagues is going through something very similar. His baby was born before the due date, and his wife went through a difficult time before and during their birth. He was also stuck between a rock and a hard place. He was relieved to read that the teachers would now benefit from more time in their parental leave until now. He, along with us and other teachers that have experienced this, are far from disappointed, and that is why we are here. We hear words thrown around CPS like equity and phrases like no child left behind, and all this applies to everyone except for our own teachers' children. It seems like the mayor is more interested in keeping the bears in Chicago than taking care of her own teachers. Thank you.
We thank you for listening to some of our parents and teachers. At this time, we're going to bring the president of AFT to come and speak to us today, none other than our own Randy Weingartner. Sorry.
Randy.
So, first off, I want to say thank you for being so vulnerable and for telling your stories. These are not isolated instances. All throughout the country, basically teaching, I should have said Randy Weingarten, R-A-N-D-I, WEINJARTEN, President AFT, right? Okay, so let me start again. These are not isolated instances, the stories you just heard. There are many stories like this. There are stories like this throughout the country. And what we've had to do is use collective bargaining and other ways of pushing and prodding employers, because in our field, which is disproportionately female, we have a need for parental leave throughout the country. And so what happened here, there was a moment. It was like, oh, the mayor is actually doing something good for city workers, which frankly, most of the time, corporations are behind us, but they understood, particularly in this post-COVID environment, the importance for parental leave, and corporations around the country are giving parental leave. We've tried in lots of different ways to get it in Congress. We've had cities that have done this, New York, Washington, Seattle, others. So the mayor says, okay, we're going to do this for all city workers. So the mayor controls the school system. The workers in the school system are city workers. Yes, they're teachers and guidance counselors. So imagine everyone's surprise when they're in the midst of implementing a plan that is so important that it felt like we got coal in the Christmas stockings. It's when the mayor and others announced, oh no, this is not for the schools. It's for the schools initially and all other city workers, and then not for the schools? What's that about? The most female-based workforce in the city of Chicago, and not for them? Not for the people who were mama bears and papa bears? That's why I'm here today. We need parental leave everywhere. We are fighting for it in the Congress. We're fighting for it in states and towns and cities and rural areas everywhere. But here in the city of Chicago, if the city of Chicago is giving parental leave to every other worker, the city of Chicago, Mayor Lightfoot, you have to do it morally for educators. There is no reason not to. Morally, we need it. But more than morally, how do you single out the people who teach our kids and say, not for you, for everybody else? Thank you.
Yes. What do we want? Parental leave. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Parental leave. When do we want it? Now. Now I'm going to bring to you Stacia from SEIU. Let's receive her at this time.
All right, Stacia.
Good afternoon. My name is Stacia Scott, STACIA-SCOTT. I'm the Executive Vice President for SEIU Local 73. We represent nearly 9,000 support staff in Chicago Public Schools. Your bus aides, crossing guards, custodians, security, special education, classroom assistants, parent workers. From the beginning of your child's day in Chicago, it is our members who care for them at the beginning, throughout, and at the end of their days. From the new parents need the time to bond with their babies, recover from postpartum depression, recover physically, deal with sleep deprivation, prepare for child care costs. There are so many factors that go into being a parent, as we heard from so many brave people today. 12 weeks parental leave is a humane policy that is on par with what other countries offer. It is what our members deserve. It is what CTU members deserve. It is what park workers deserve. Anybody in this city should be able to have 12 weeks parental leave so that they can do what's necessary to take care of themselves and their children. This is an opportunity for the current mayor to stand up and do what's right. She has the ability and the authority to implement this policy now, not later. We need something in writing. We need a timeline for implementation. I'm getting calls from people who are getting ready to give birth, and they want to know what's going on because they were told that 12 weeks is coming, and now it's not. We can't get a clear answer on when the timeline is coming. And so what do I have to tell these expecting moms? I don't know. I don't know what the mayor is going to do. We'll try with everything we have. But how does that help somebody who's already anxious and nervous about the process of giving birth, about being a parent? It doesn't help them. 12 weeks parental leave is the humane thing to do, and SEIU 73 is calling on the mayor to implement this policy now. Thank you.
What do we want? Parental leave. When do we want? Now. Now I have the pleasure to bring you our brother, the next mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson.
All right, Brandon. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you all for being here. My name is Brandon Johnson. I'm proud to stand with the workers of the city of Chicago. You know, it's very disappointing and unfortunate that this mayor continues to break promises.
Right.
If there was ever an email that these workers would want to receive from the mayor, it would be for a 12-week parental leave. That's an email she can send right now. You know, it's really unfortunate that, again, that to offer up parental leave for city workers, of which 70% of them are men, and not provide that for a profession that is 80% women. You really have to just question that decision. You know, I'm raising a family in the city of Chicago, my wife and I, and my wife is a doula, and as Stacia has indicated, the transition that families need as new parents requires more than just a few weeks. I mean, real time to bond. There's a lot of adjustment. In fact, we could use a leave now. I'm adjusting to an 8, 10, and 15-year-old right now. You know, that bond is something that ultimately keeps families strong and together. And so we are calling on the mayor of Chicago to get something right. This administration needs to fix this and do it now. And again, I'm proud to stand with workers across the city demanding what really is a basic human right, and that's parental leave. As mayor of Chicago, you won't have to fight a parent to get what parents deserve and need. And this mayor should know that. And so she needs to act and act swiftly, and we're counting on her to do that, and we're going to hold her accountable. Thank you very much.
What do we want? Parental leave. When do we want it? Now. Awesome. We thank you. At this time, I'm going to bring the Vice President of the Chicago Teachers Union, none other than Jackson Potter.
Jackson Potter, Jackson Potter, Vice President, Chicago Teachers Union. I'm going to go quick so we can get this beautiful child into a warm home. And it's cold out here, but I want to start by saying the mayor interfered with this effort to expand parental leave to 12 weeks to deserving parents. She then said, when we called her out for it, that she wants all workers in all city agencies to have the same parental leave she gifted to workers for the city. So she said she did not interfere, but if she wasn't interfering at the beginning, she's certainly interfering now because she controls the school district. She has appointed all the board members. She can tell them, like Brandon said, like Stacia said, tomorrow, I want every teacher, I want every SICA, I want every paraprofessional, I want parks workers and employees, I want people in the libraries to all get the same benefit that she has given to workers on the municipal side. And just to put a real exclamation point on it, the Chicago Teachers Union forms officially in 1937, in no small part on the basis of making sure that women teachers and women paraprofessionals, who are nearly 80% of the workers in our system, were given equal pay and equal benefits to the men who were teachers and paraprofessionals in the system. And we've continued to fight for that equity. And what has the mayor done? She claims women's rights, but then refuses to grant them in the case of CPS. She claims women's rights, but then does not have a pipeline for nurses from our paraprofessionals, and we have a nurse shortage in the midst of COVID, and these are mostly women who help incoming refugee families who are now coming into the system in large numbers get health care. So that's a women's rights issue as well. We also heard today that miscarriage, which is now state required as a bereavement, that the CPS isn't going to give 5 days to allow workers bereavement on miscarriage. So how are these pro-women policies? They're not. It's quite the opposite. So we're here today to really say things have got to change. And if the mayor isn't willing to grant this leave tomorrow on the timeline that was promised when the board meets on the 25th of January, then maybe we need a new mayor. And I think Brandon Johnson's ready to step in and do the right thing on February 28th. So hear us now, or certainly you're going to hear from voters later. Thank you.
We thank everyone for coming out and listening and being with us. At this time, we'll take questions.
Questions?